So, we're here with our first episode of a series that we're going to call Passionates. Why Passionates? Well, calling him Pash from now on. So, we're going to have a special guest. We're going to be kind of courteous and make them feel nice and at home. So, this is going to be a show where it's going to be kind of podcast-ish, where we're going to probably go through everything that we went through in the week, review the cars that were reviewed, get a second opinion on some of them, things like that. Talk about any car news or anything going like that throughout the week. And then I'd also like to talk about whatever next week is going to be. So this is going to be a preview for everything coming for the following week. And then also to keep up with a details thing and all that kind of stuff, we're probably going to have a product of the week kind of thing like that. Have something that maybe I found this week that I really liked a lot, that I think a lot of people could benefit from. So, without further ado, we are going to start off with what cars we reviewed throughout the week. They are Audi R8, Porsche 911 Turbo S, the Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG, and also, not necessarily part of the group, but the Ford Mustang GT. So, let's actually start off with the GT because it's the odd one out. Cool car?
I like them. From what we saw the other day at work, they're a little larger than I was expecting, but
Yeah, that's
they're
something
still real sleek. They're nice looking.
that's something that I don't think a lot of people actually think about is how big the hood is on things like Mustangs, Corvettes, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like you sit down and you sit in it from your normal typical Camry, all that kind of thing. We sit in a lot of Hondas and stuff at work. Yeah, we sit through a lot of vehicles, Toyotas, Camry, Toyotas, Hondas, all that kind of stuff, being detailers, and we don't sit in anything too crazy, but every once in a while we get something fun. And you just don't quite understand that even though it is a two-door car, you might think it's small. You sit in it and you have feet and feet of hood out in front of you because it has to fit a slightly larger engine, something a lot bigger than the industry's average turbo four-cylinder nowadays, or just regular four-cylinder. But some statistics or specs on the GT, horsepower, torque, really good, right? They're pretty good. 460 horsepower and 420 torque. And now this car comes in at like anywhere from like 30 to 35 grand, and you can of course spec them all the way up to 50 grand. But that's if you don't care about having all the amenities and things like that, and if a dealership has actually made one that cheap, getting that much horsepower and stuff for that amount of money is really good. And we also have things like its weight and stuff, and something that I probably won't go through on the normal episodes of Singled Out is its Nürburgring time. So we're going to kind of chalk up all the vehicles together and see who stands out to be the best in that kind of thing. And what better way or test to see if they're the best than the Nürburgring. 12.9 miles of just turns and straightaways and the best track ever. On the Nürburgring, it got an 8.07. Now, I'm sadly not as familiar with it, but you said that actually wasn't too bad. Fuck. Alright. Sorry about that. Little technical difficulties right there. What were we talking about? Nürburgring times.
You were saying something about
Yeah.
how
I
that might be good.
was asking you, so 807, not that bad.
From what I've seen from like other most of like cars, when they set a time on there, it'll be anywhere between like 8 minutes is a solid number. You've got a decent car at that.
Okay, so if you hit around the 8 minute mark, you're doing pretty well. That's I mean, people always think about 10-second quarter mile, but if you can do like a 12, 11-second quarter mile, that's a good car.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's good to have a little perspective on something like that. Now, of course, it's not going to be as quick as the other vehicles on this list, which is where we'll go into next. The other ones that we started a theme for the rest of the week was German sports cars. almost supercars. I won't quite go that high of saying supercar, mainly because we did Audi R8, which that's the closest thing to a supercar I'm gonna say on this list. When I think supercar, I usually think a little bit higher. I usually think of like McLaren 720S. I think of what else? Probably your Lamborghini Aventadors, those kind of things. Just the really wicked fast vehicles. So I'm gonna call them sports cars because we also didn't get the Porsche 911 GT3 RS or the what's their hybrid vehicle? 918 Spider.
I think so.
That's their big one that also goes up the McLaren P1 and the Ferrari LaFerrari. So that's why I'm not gonna call them all supercars. They're close, but we're starting to get a better gap, or for us, a better judging day and time of what a real supercar is, because some cars are just getting so far advanced than everyone else, which is good time to be a car enthusiast, things like that. A lot of cool stuff always happening, at least lately. So we'll start off with the R8. What do you think of it?
I think, as I've stated to you before, not like on camera, but I'm not a huge fan of like sports car stuff. I'm more older car stuff like that. But I think the R8s are real solid cars. They're not too aggressive looking. They're not too melty looking, I guess you could say, with a lot of those higher end cars.
Like when Mustang GT first came out, and everyone went, "Oh, they messed it up." But now that it's been out for a few years, everyone's got accustomed to it. Its specs are the R8's base horsepower is 610, while its V10 Plus is 640, if I'm not mistaken, and then torque is 413. Sadly, I don't recall what the torque for the V10 Plus is. My bad. Its weight is 3627. So Mustang was 3705. A little bit lighter, not a lot, but it's I guess I would think of it as it's still a pretty big car. It's not totally streamlined for track and stuff like that. It's a very fast car. It's still, I would call, sports car, but that's where I kind of get away from the supercar, because usually when you get to supercar territory, that's when you're getting down to like 3,200 pounds, 3,000 pounds, something really, really light and really quick, obviously. And its Nürburgring time, its regular V10 is 7:44, 7 minutes 44 seconds, so quite a bit faster than the Mustang. And anything, if you can pull for racetracks and stuff like that, if you're a second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds than the other guy, that's years in racetrack time. So obviously this is a bit better of a car, a lot more power. So what are we looking at? 6? You motherfucker. Oh well. We'll make sure to try and do this better next time. But it's quite a bit faster, and that's just the base model. Then we have the V10 Plus, which is 732, which shaves 12 seconds off its already pretty quick time. Now that's ridiculous. It does have quite a bit more power, but it also removed a lot of its weight and things like that. One thing that people don't think about a lot when talking about car racing and things like that, everyone always thinks, or at least a lot of people think about raw power, right? They always think like more horsepower, more faster. There are a lot of other things that help you. I would say, as of right now, especially with this arms race for the fastest car in the world, weight is probably the biggest factor. Your weight and your aerodynamics, because you can have the best engine ever, but if your car isn't slippery in the air, or if you're just carrying too much weight, then you're not going to have a chance. So, alright, my favorite of the German vehicles, probably my favorite sports car, things like that, would love to own one. But we'll see, maybe one day. Next we have the Porsche 911 Turbo S. Now, I did get the Nürburgring time for the regular turbo, because this I thought was pretty interesting. So, Porsche 911 Turbo, 756. Good time.
Yeah.
Not as fast as the base R8, but faster than the Mustang. I think I like having the Mustang on here, so we have the nice baseline of what is a good car, and having all these ones to compare it to. But as soon as we get to the Turbo S, it drops to 717. So that's much faster than the R8 and the V10 Plus with its 732 rating time. And that is a huge jump to get all the way down there. They have obviously given it a lot more power, things like that. Tuned it a bit better, a lot of weight reducing, and just made a really solid car. But I fucking hate it. As I stated in Sinway, I fucking hate most Porsches, because I even for proof, I showed him or had him look up photos of a 1963 Porsche 911. Then what did we go to? 1980s.
I think it was like 1984. They
Yeah,
changed the model.
1984. We went to the technical next model, we'll say, of the 911, the updated version. And then we looked at one from 2018. It's the same fucking car that they've been making for the better half of a decade. And I fucking hate it. It's a good car. If someone bought one, they would never be disappointed. It's worth every penny if you want the same damn thing they've been making forever. It's just gotten slightly more refined every single year. It gets slightly better. But what bothers me is that it's been around for so long, and it's only had 3 versions or iterations, where most cars nowadays, you get a new version every couple years. And of course it's a little different for your lower end stuff. You get a new Hyundai Sonata every couple years, you get a new Chevy Cruze updated every couple years, they update the outside, headlights, that kind of stuff. But at least keeps them fresh, I'll say. If you like the shape of a Porsche, then you won't be disappointed with the current one out, and you probably won't be disappointed with the one after that, and the one after that, and the one fucking after that.
Sort of like how people were upset with the Corvettes after they did an updated model, and everyone's like, "Oh, that's not a real Corvette."
Yeah.
Like that.
But if you look at them now, at least for a younger generation, that's a badass looking car.
Yeah.
But if you look at C5 to C6, the only thing that changed was the headlights, and it was really dull. It was just like, oh, you released the same car. Sure, it got a ZR1 model and got a big old supercharger and stuff like that, and it's still a phenomenal car. But if you had to pick between the two, if you wanted a Corvette and you liked that generation of C5 to C6, C6s are still holding their value pretty well. You can still find, people are still selling them for 30, 40 grand and stuff for the miles. If you don't need that model, if you don't want a Z06, then a C5, which still comes with a 400 horsepower LS2, that's still a good option. So that's almost a better option. But with the Porsche, they've never changed. They've almost stayed the exact same forever. Rear wheel drive, engine in the back, same dumbass headlights. The thing stayed the same forever. And I don't like it. Porsche, change it up. Alright, next we have the SLS. Now, I like the SLS a lot. Not a widely known car, as it didn't have a long model life. It was from 2009 to 2015, so pretty short.
Yeah.
Not a lot of cars are only made for that few of years, I'll say. I mean, find a car that has a shorter lifespan out right now, and that would actually be pretty difficult unless it was just unveiled a couple of years ago. Most cars nowadays are living for decades and decades because car companies put so much thought into the vehicle, they can't necessarily take the risk on what if it fails. They kind of have to make it work eventually. I mean, people might not like something like the Chevy Cruze, maybe because it doesn't have an SS version or anything like that, but Ford's not going to stop making it. Chevrolet's not going to stop making it. My bad. Ford not making any cars anymore, except for the Mustang and the Focus or Fusion. That's it.
Yeah.
I think it's the Focus. What's up with that? That's just ridiculous to me. Meanwhile, Europe is still getting the cool things like the Ranger Raptor and all that kind of stuff. Oh well. Back to the SLS. Short lifespan, but really cool car. Not something that a lot of people know about it is got big gull-wing doors, which is always a nice feature. If you get a high-end car, it's always fun if the doors go up like a Lamborghini or now McLaren's, or if they have the gull-wing doors. Just something to make it a bit more different than everything else on the road. The only car on here to have a full electric version, Porsche 911 has, or Porsche has a Porsche that is a hybrid and stuff, but to my knowledge, not a full EV vehicle. It's not redundant, EV vehicle, electric vehicle.
Yeah.
My bad. Anyways, the regular regular Mercedes SLS AMG did the Nürburgring in 7:30, so pretty faster than the R8 with the Plus version, but slower than the Porsche and obviously faster than the Mustang. Its horsepower and torque are 563 and 479, so very respectable numbers, very solid. All these vehicles obviously are all going to have solid numbers. We're not going to, and maybe we'll get there one day, but as of right now, we're not going to be reviewing your like Buick Torex or a what else? It's another shit car.
Chevy Caprice or something.
Yeah. Hyundai Accent. That's a winner right there. Fuck, that's a boring car. If you need a cheap car and you want a new car, get a Hyundai Accent. It'll be the most car you'll get. That might not make a lot of sense, but if you go sit in one, you'll understand. You will have the fun drained away from you. And Hyundai's even doing some cool stuff with the Veloster N edition. That thing's a neat little ride. Sonata is a fighter for the Honda Accord, and they're not bad. The new ones, they're not bad vehicles. They're that nice, like they're a nice sedan. If you got one, it would do its job and everything. It'd be comfortable and stuff like that. But the fucking Accent is dick. It sucks. Anyways, back to the SLS. As I said, one of the other ones to have electric version, and it was only for I think 2013 to 2015. It's only 2 years or whatever. It's not going to be a Tesla. It's not going to have a range of 300 miles or whatever they're getting nowadays.
It's like 270 or something.
Yeah. It only has a range of 120, but you may only have a range of that, but you got 741 horsepower and 783 torque. That's not bad. That's quick. And all-wheel drive, so very nice.
Especially with electric cars, they don't have as much of a lag, like gas powered ones or something.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's all just instant power right away, which is why electric vehicles are making such a havoc for all the gasoline vehicles. I mean, if you're a car enthusiast and you look on YouTube and you search anything about car-related items, you'll definitely get a recommended of watch this Tesla Model 3 beat a Dodge Demon or whatever.
Yeah.
Hundreds of those videos. Electric is good. It'll never have, for some people obviously won't have the same feel, but that goes back to, I mean, it's the future. It's going to be better and we can't get away from it.
It's all about preference.
Mm-hmm. I don't like manuals. Don't like them. I'm fine that we're going away from it. But there are some people that need it, want it, that just, it's not a car if it doesn't have a manual, because you're shifting and everything, you're doing all the work. And that's great for them. And that's how the gasoline engine, I think, is going to be eventually. I mean, I bet almost any person could sit in a Tesla that likes cars and feel that power and be almost wooed by it to an extent. Like, you'll sit in this, will be unlike anything you've ever been in. And that's what is going to keep getting closer and closer to as technology is getting better. And if Elon Musk can keep his damn mouth shut on Twitter,
Yeah.
stop getting everyone and their mother mad at him.
Twitter politics aside.
Everything's gonna be electric eventually, and just like the manual, eventually it will get to a point where there will be a breed of people that will need to hear that sound of that V8, or for Audi's instance, that V10. Stupid sounding engine. It's amazing. Really, just phenomenal. Anything like 10, 12 cylinders, fantastic. And things like the Mustang and stuff like that, there will be such a large amount of people that will just have to get used to their loved car is dying. But that's how it's gonna go. So SLS EV, really cool car. Although, out of every vehicle on this list, and I don't think I said it, but the Porsche weighs 3,500 pounds, so even lighter than the Ari. The SLS gasoline version weighs 3726. So actually, it's heavier than the Mustang. So I'm gonna say it's the heaviest on this list, but the EV version weighs 4,619 pounds. That's heavy. This goes back to this car was made in 2013, so batteries and stuff weren't as good as they are today. All electric cars are gonna be heavy. They can't get past that capacity issue. They need so many banks of batteries. There's just nothing they can do about it. And we haven't made the technology good enough to really get past the weight.
Yeah.
We haven't found a way to make them smaller, lighter. And that's something that, I mean, especially with Tesla being as big as it is, so many other car companies are coming out with their electric vehicles that they're just going to try and get better and better and better and better. Eventually, we'll get there. But as right now, you get an electric car, it's going to be heavy. So, that's why it had a really good Nürburgring time, but it's still a little bit slower than something like the Porsche, which is such a small car. Having 580 horsepower, that thing is just a missile. Again, it's a good car. I just don't like it. So that was last week. Yeah, that was all the vehicles we went over. And like I said, we started off a little weird with Mustang GT, but I'd like to keep a theme going on. Which leads me into what I'd like to do for next week. So, we're going to think of everything that we want to do for the next week, and we're going to, like I said earlier, tell you guys that maybe if there's a car that you actually want, and you don't really care about the rest or whatever, and you just want to watch the video, you can. So next week, American track cars. We're not just doing American sport cars or American supercars and stuff like that. All these lists are gonna be pretty refined. So, for instance, for track cars, what I mean is Mustang GT 350R. We did the Mustang GT, but the 350R is specific track. If we were gonna do just America's best cars, we would probably do a GT 500.
Yeah.
Or something, because it's just more power and stuff like that, and people know it more. But for track cars, GT350R is a monster, just like everything else on this list. Just like the Corvette ZR1, that'll be one of the cars as well. Brand new car, but is doing a phenomenal job on track with that upgraded aero and 755 horsepower and just all that stuff. It's got everything working for it. Then we have the Viper ACR. Sadly, no longer in production, but it only stopped last year or this year.
I think it was 2015 is when they stopped production on it.
Oh, I swear that had 2016 model.
It might. I could be wrong. I think it's
So, anyways, it stopped production, but it's still one of America's exotics kind of thing. It's one of our greatest track cars. New one to the group with the ZR1. Kind of new. ZR1 had other models, but this one's a little bit different. I hope that isn't coming up too strong in the audio, but we'll see. Sorry for the excess noise. We have the Camaro ZL1 1LE. Now that's a neat car. Everyone knows Ford needs to come out with a competitor for the ZL1 right now and stuff like that, because it's got the GT50R, but it's a track vehicle, and they need to come out with a slightly higher horsepower Mustang. But if we're comparing apples to apples, we'll use the 1LE, because that thing, just like the ZR1 Corvette, it has a huge amount of upgraded aero, better tires, things like that. And, alright, so, sorry about that, had to cut for a second. Back to the ZL1 1LE, big competitor for the Mustang GT350R. Those will be really good to see next to each other. Just like the Corvette ZR1 and the Viper ACR will be really nice comparisons, because they're so track focused, so raw, if you will. Really focused about the driving experience. And then for the last vehicle, we're going to do Ford GT.
My opinion, I don't like them. Overpriced for the same thing you get out of basically like a GT 350R or GT
Yeah.
500.
This will actually be really interesting. I want to see what the Nürburgring on a GT 350R versus a Ford GT is. 350R is going to be heavier, but if I'm not mistaken, it has a little bit. It's going to be in the same power range, but the Ford GT is $500,000.
Which is, like we discussed, I think a while back, you're essentially paying like $100,000 per 100 horsepower.
Yeah. And that's too much. I mean, I can pretty much guarantee it won't be faster than that Porsche 911, and that car is in the $200,000 price range. I bet it'll stack up pretty well with the SLS and R8, but those are $200,000 cars. So will be a good outlier. I want to see what the difference between the Corvette ZR1 and the Ford GT, because ZR1 is the second most expensive car on this list at $150,000. That's $350,000 difference between the two, and if it's not light years faster than it, then why get it? Sure, it's cool, and the exclusivity and all that kind of stuff does make it a really cool car. It's up there at being also kind of like people have thought about the Viper, America's exotic car, right? Because it's the only and when we talk about this kind of stuff, we're really only talking about production cars. For instance, Tennessee has the
Venom GT that they did at first, which started off their hypercar line, and now they got the new the GT5 or something like that.
F5.
Yeah, something like that.
And that's going to be the attempt to go for the record breaking and everything against the Koenigsegg Guerrero, which if it can beat.
I think it's like a race at 300.
Alrighty, so then obviously that video just ended sadly. Wearing different shirts and everything, and Patch is no longer here. The reason for that is the end half of that video got corrupted somehow when we were doing file transfer. Just something happened and sadly it went away. Obviously the show is still a work in progress, so we're going to try and obviously do better the next time and upgrade the camera and all that kind of stuff. But don't think that anything too big was missed out from the last video. If you have any comments or anything that you'd like to see, anything like that, anything you'd like us to talk about, let us know. But for now, as usual, like, comment, subscribe. If there's any cars you'd like to see, please comment them. If there's any detailing products you'd like to see used or any processes, please let us know, and we'll get back to you in the next video. Have a good night.